If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so honored and excited today to have Croft Elsaesser on the phone with us with Carol Baumgartel. Carol's the Chief Vision Officer and co-founder, and Croft is the CEO and co-founder of the great company American Clay. Welcome to Green is Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mike.
Hey, you know, your bios are just amazing, and your journey and story is just wonderful. We've never covered your industry before, nor have we ever had, for Truth in Advertising, a mother and son team before on the show. So I want it to be in your own words. Croft and Carol, tell our listeners a little bit about the journey to where you've gotten American Clay today.
Well, the short and truth of it is we jumped. How I started it out was I was a decorative finisher working in wood finishing industry, and that evolved into working into the paint industry, doing specialty finishes. And as I went, one of my interests was making it a little bit healthier for myself, and would use cleaner, or what at the time what I thought were cleaner materials, and found that even what was considered water-based or acrylic types of finishes weren't as healthy as what I expected, and found that started to impact myself. I started getting headaches, and had the opportunity to work with what I would call a mud plaster. Knew about them growing up, having visited my mom in New Mexico often and being aware of Adobe, but I wasn't a plasterer. I was a finisher, and I wanted something that was that healthy, but something that was easier for me to use, and that led to the development of a product that I was going to use just for my projects. And that is where Mom enters.
Yeah, it is.
Carol, what's your side of the story
well,
here?
that's a good question. And I have to tell you that that's really the reality of how we got to the time when Croft called me and he said, I really want to make this material that's like the clay plasters from Europe, but better.
Gotcha.
They don't have the attributes that I need. And he asked me for probably the main reason is that I have a fine arts degree in ceramics. So I understand clays. I understand the properties of aggregates and glazes. And so we marched to the ceramic store, and I said, I think that we should start with these materials, about 50 or 60 little bags of materials, and here, Croft, you make it. But this is what I think's in it, some form of this. It took him about almost, I would say, 9 months to a year to play with it while he was working full-time. And while he was doing that, I was fomenting this idea that as an ASID professional designer as well, and having worked with people with environmental disease since the early 90s, I thought, this isn't just for him. This is much bigger than that. And I said, you guys, once you get to this invention, and once we've put it up in my house, I think you need to patent it.
Oh, but one of the better parts is...
Okay, that's good vision. That's why you're the vision. That's good.
But one of the better parts is it was really funny because this is the piece that I remember very clearly. But Carol, my mom, sort of leaves out every once in a while. Is one day we're sitting in her new house,
right,
and we're laying out the material, and she comes over to me. She says, "Are you sure this is going to work?"
And give us a little timeline here. This is approximately what year?
1999 was when he first, or 2000, I would say. 2000 was when he first. It was probably 99 actually.
It was 98, 99 when we started developing the material.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then
put it in my house in 2000.
Yep.
And what was
2001.
what was the mission then when you started the company and you had that aha moment in Carol's house to where how has it evolved? And that's a long time span, and the Green Revolution has taken hold somewhere in between 98 and 2010. We crossed over. We hit.
Can I answer? Can I look at that a second, Croft? Can I just throw in?
Sure.
I'm going to throw in that the evolution came in 2002 when Croft went in and applied for the patent.
Okay.
And and at the same time, it was the first year in November of 2002 that USGBC, that's the U.S. Green Building Council,
right,
held its first expo in Austin. And we because it was our commitment to that this was a national material, not a local material, but a national material, we just dove in. We dove in and said, we're going to advertise nationally, and we're going to go to the show. And we opened the business in September. We advertised in Natural Home and Garden. What I didn't know, having just learned about national advertising, is that the magazine came out in October for the November-December issue. We were slammed with requests for samples.
Wow. We
were working out of first up a barn in Santa Fe, and then in a small bay warehouse, making these samples, trying to make this show display. We drove to Austin. Actually, my sons drove to Austin. I flew. Thank you. And we were the busiest booth in the whole place. That's when USGBC had 200 booths in the show. It now has between 800 and 900 exhibitors.
It's become big.
And that was it. I mean, it was just like, and we got our first order, I think, in November of that year for 85 buckets.
and it took us 2 weeks to make them.
Well, good. Well, that's a great beginning. So 2002. Okay, it's like if this is a car race, that's when the checkered flag, whatever flag starts a car race. That's when that starts.
That was the first year that the national building people started to notice green is not going away. We keep trying to erase it, but it's not going away.
That's right. And then you made your first bucket. So where are you? How many buckets did you make that year? And give us like a little rough, without giving away any trade secrets or anything. That's not what we're here for. But give us a wow number. Like, we made this many buckets in 2002, and this year we're going to make this many in 2010 or what?
Well, I would say so we in 2002, I think we made a total of 97 buckets.
Wow. Okay.
So that's 50-pound containers.
Okay.
And last year.
Yeah, last year.
We made. Well, I've never looked. We've shifted our monitoring from units to dollars. So
we made about 1 million pounds of material.
There you go. That's wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's how much it's grown, and that's just amazing. So talk about that journey. And for our listeners who just joined us, and you've got an iPad or a laptop or some other, you're in front of your desktop. We've got the founders here of American Clay, and you can look at it right now, AmericanClay.com, just like it's spelled, AmericanClay.com. On the phone with us, Croft Elsaesser and Carol Baumgartel are on with us today from New Mexico, talking about their great company. So talk about the journey a little bit from 2002 to 2008. What were the keys of growing? A green company. Carol, you mentioned about ads in magazines back then. We're now living. This 2002 was pre-Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, pre-social media. Wow, how was that? How was the messaging and the growing and the pushing and the pulling of a new green company gone during those 8 years?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, it's been very interesting, because I think one of the things that's quite unique about establishing a green company was, I think, a lot of the issues and the points that you develop at the onset already lay a platform for how you're going to continue. We wanted to be a green company from the beginning, so right off the start, we considered the energy aspects, we considered the packaging that we were going to use, and we considered the impact of what we were going to be creating.
Carbon footprint and those kind of things.
Exactly, carbon footprint. And starting from that point, there's an ideal that we laid out there. And I think sometimes the most frustrating thing was we couldn't complete everything 100%. And let me give you an example of our packaging.
Sure.
So when we first started, because we literally were mixing it in 5-gallon buckets, we were mixing it in 5-gallon buckets. Not what I would consider, in my mind, a greenest type of material.
Got it.
But that was one of the limitations that we had. We knew that wasn't the best and what we wanted to continue on, but we made people aware that you could at least recycle those. And because it was something that you could clean out completely, you could recycle it. We then wanted to look at what was going to provide us with the next best thing, and our packaging moved to a if you can picture a burlap bag with a poly liner on the inside. We used it as the marketing standpoint. It was a premium type of packaging, but we hadn't found something that got away from some kind of a plastic liner, because if you can imagine pouring a fine clay plaster into a burlap bag, it just sort of runs out.
Well, Clay, I can not only picture it, I'm looking at pictures on your website. So if you're following along right now and you're listening to the show and you're in front of your laptop or sitting there at your desktop PC, or you got an iPad, you really need to check out. It's a very cool site, easy to navigate to. Again, the address is americanclay.com. And I'm looking at some of the colors and some of the textures, and right now happen to be looking at the online store and see the packaging that this comes in. And it does look pretty eco-friendly.
Well, and that was one of the things that we were looking at. So what we evolved to from there was to a cotton bag, of basically an old flour sack bag.
Wow.
So it's a renewable resource. It's recyclable. We have a recycle program. You can send them back to us, and we either put them back into the manufacturing, depending on the quality, or we actually make those into handout bags like you'd see at any trade show.
So Carol and Croft, you built this from 2002 with, you weren't only going to talk a good talk, you were going to walk a good walk, and green was going to be part of your DNA in everything you did at your company.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was 100% commitment.
So there you go. So talk a little bit about your clients. Like, for our listeners out there, is this for people building their new home, or once their home is built to do it in certain walls? Is this for commercial use, residential use? Talk a little bit about the commerce of what American Clay does.
As being the interior designer from who has done medical facilities and spas and high-end homes and medium-priced homes and model homes for large builders, we saw it going into each and every one of those venues. But clearly, originally, it was primarily a residential application that we were looking at.
Gotcha.
And a high-end custom home feature.
Gotcha.
And we, it really has expanded way beyond all of that, because what we know is that the key attributes, the key benefits of this material is that it brings an amazing comfort and energy savings element into every room it goes into.
Explain that.
Well, it's Croft, do you want to do that, or I can do it? I mean, I just want to know. I mean,
well, so the energy savings aspect. There's a couple of things that we look at. So you talked about the carbon footprint as one aspect. In the manufacturing, per pound, American Clay is the lowest carbon footprint of almost any commercially available material.
Wall surface.
Wall surface,
mm-hmm.
and that's on a per pound basis. Now that doesn't say that somebody that's on a site and making site-based plaster, mud plaster, doing it for a cob or something like that, I will still say that's the greenest approach you can possibly do, but not many people are willing to go out there and do that. So that's one aspect. So just on the basis of the material. Not only that, but we reduced the total number of materials that are going to have to go onto the wall. So you'd normally skim your wall with a gypsum, and then you'd go back and you'd do a primer and then a paint. And typically a good paint job should be 2 coats of paint on top of that. And the clay plaster...
and you have to repeat that every 2 years.
And typically, we as a society do that. We repeat that. And what we've been really looking at, and we have some aspects around the clay plaster, is they have an ability to absorb moisture. We call it a humidity buffering property, right. So that as humidity rises, it's going to take some of that moisture into the wall system, and then as that humidity drops, it releases it back out into the space.
So it increases the comfort level of your space just by moderating that humidity.
Can I just also ask just a remedial question then? If Mike and I are building new homes or redoing our homes that we live in now, isn't another reason we want to put this on, besides humidity, just the VOC issue that you brought up earlier, Croft?
It's a no-VOC.
Completely. So it's a...
Right.
It literally is the plaster itself in its raw form is a no-VOC material.
Which is great because it makes a healthier living environment just for the air quality.
Right.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
I just wanted to make sure our listeners understood that.
Good point. Good point. And so one of the great things, and one of the aspects that we're really looking at right now is because of that moisture capacity and moving it in and out, we've hypothesized that the material and that moisture capacity helps reduce the overall energy load that you have on a mechanical system. Mm-hmm. And we literally have some test units that are going on right now, and currently we're showing that even a thin layer of the American clay compared to a painted wall has a more stable interior environment than just a painted wall system. And so that's where we step out and say we believe that it can help with the overall economics and the save some money.
Croft, let me ask you this. Am I correct in thinking that, well, say I were to look at remodeling a bathroom and maybe just painting the bathroom, freshening it up a little bit, that using your product and this American clay plaster might be the ideal material to use in an environment where humidity is going to fluctuate, like in a shower or bathroom.
Exactly, and it's so contrary to what we've come to do, which is paint a gloss paint or a semi-gloss paint in there, where the clay is. You're exactly right. We found that if you use the clay plaster in the bathroom, and I will point out that the more you use, the more beneficial it will be at absorbing that humidity. Right. But it can prevent condensation on your window when you climb out of that shower.
Well, here, and I'm thinking about an additional energy savings. Am I correct in thinking that you may be able to minimize, if not totally eliminate, the use of your bathroom fan?
I will be very careful to say I wouldn't recommend completely eliminating it, because you still want to remove that moisture from the interior space.
Right. Because you're required to put one in.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
But the clay plasters will help the overall situation, and it's it's much more complex than just the simplicity that they put it at. But there's a very key reason why that takes place, and so I would still use your energy fan, but it's going to help make it more comfortable. For example, how much do people just hate? You come out of the shower, you go to stand right in front of your mirror, and you got to wait, or you got to wipe everything down. You end up with the water streaks across your mirror, and that's just a pain.
Right.
Hey, Carol, given that, obviously there's a lot of green benefits here from everything that Croft just explained and more, and also the VOC issue, which everyone is becoming more and more educated to. But given that you're the CVO and also, are the interior designer guru here, do we have to trade off being green for having the aesthetic things that you want in life?
Oh, that's the best part of all. Okay. It is remarkably transformative in terms of how it reflects light, and your colors actually, I would say, shimmer insofar as, how during the day the light in a room changes, but the walls are usually pretty flat.
Right.
What we have here is that the walls actually undulate somewhat in the reflectivity of the material. It also can heighten the sheen, depending on which one of our products you use. So you can get a patina like oyster shell, like that soft glow, pearlescent glow from an oyster, using our Maritimo product, which is made from crushed oyster shells. And then the porcelina can be polished very close to a Venetian plaster finish. Wow. The coloring that we use the colors that we use, the pigments we use, are primarily mineral-based. We don't use aniline dyes from petroleum, so they're all mineral oxides or pigments. They're not heavy metals. We never use a heavy metal pigment in our product. So literally, I mean, we have people talk to us about dogs licking the walls.
Yeah.
They do, actually, but it's not. They won't get hurt by that. Wow. The other thing is, I'm going to go back to the clay itself and the properties of the clay.
Yeah.
And the fact that the humidity buffering brings a more comfortable level of temperature and humidity in a space. It also, that property also helps release dust from your walls. Oh. People ask us all the time, well, how can I wash my walls? The truth is, you don't have to wash the walls. I have golden retrievers, and if anybody has golden retrievers out there or any kind of dog that sheds, when they sleep against the wall, they leave kind of a greasy wall surface, and they leave all that hair on the walls because the latex binders in paints, whether they're 0-VOCs or not, they have latex binders.
Right.
For the majority, and they will attract that hair. The dogs, where they sleep in my house, and they do come to our office,
right,
you cannot see where they've been after years and years and years of lying against the same spot, because they always lie against the same spot.
Okay, that's just amazing. Hey, Croft, I'm going to go back to a business question here. How many employees do you guys have now after all these years of running the company?
Right now, we're at 12 full-time employees.
Right. And last year you said you sold about 1 million pounds of your great American clay.
Yes.
So Carol and Croft, and you could both take a different crack, or maybe you have the same answer. Where do you go from here? How big can this thing be when you both go to bed at night separately, obviously, and you dream about this stuff, as all entrepreneurs do. We all have visions and dreams and goals. What do you think, Carol? What do you think, Croft? You went from a couple thousand pounds in 2002 and in 2010,
couple hundred pounds.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. 97 buckets, 50 pounds. This sounds like you're onto something massive here and scalable, not only in the United States but the world. Where do you go? What's the future hold here?
I'm going to leave that with you, Croft.
Okay. Well, early on you had asked about our mission. So how did our mission start at the beginning?
And Croft, we're down to the last 2 minutes or so. So I want you to give it, and I want you to be concise and leave our listeners with some great, inspiration here.
I understand.
Gotcha.
And so we started our mission.
Yeah.
I think probably the way many businesses do. It sounds very lofty and esoteric.
Yeah.
And over the last couple of years, we've gotten it pinned down to basically our mission is to replace paint with an innovative wall covering that brings the world closer to a sustainable future.
Perfect.
And the second piece is to be a profitable company that allows this mission to become a reality.
Right.
And that means if we really look at recovering the earth, then we see that we have a huge opportunity. We believe recently we've come up with a great commercial product that we believe that the hotel industry will really love. We believe that
and we'll replace all the paint in their buildings.
And replace the paint in their buildings.
Wow.
Move to something that when the useful life of that building is done, that the material that comes off that building won't cause any problems within the environment, and leaves the people that stay in those hotels with a very healthy
experience
space.
Wow. I mean, Carol, do you have any last words as we're down to the last minute or so? I mean, any final thoughts about what this venture and this journey with Croft has been, and obviously you guys can afford to dream big because almost your growth pattern here is infinite. Do you have any last words for us, Carol?
Well, two things. One is the opportunities for your audience to experience a transformed space is just by clicking to AmericanClay.com. Spoken like a true visionary. But the second thing is that we are actually blessed as a mother and son. As hard as it is sometimes,
yeah,
we've gone on a journey about the earth being a better place to experience life.
That is so
and
wonderful.
We got to do it together.
You know, that's so wonderful. And we're going to have you back again to keep telling us about the journey at a later date. And Mike and I just want to thank both of you. For all our listeners out there, go to their great website, www.americanclay.com. Look at their products, buy their products, and make your home and your experience here on this planet a healthier one always. What we've learned today, Mike, is that it's all in the family at American Clay. You are both inspiring ecopreneurs, and both Croft and Carol, you are truly living proof that green is good.
This program will be available for downloading in a couple of days from our station's website, keyword podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week at the same time for another edition of Green is Good.